Good morning, students. Today we are going to start a new chapter, antimicrobial agents. In today's topic, we'll be talking about the general considerations of the antimicrobial agents. So these general conditions I'll be discussing in two parts. So today I'll be mainly talking about the part 1. So specific learning objectives of today's class is, at the end of the session, you will be able to define the few terminologies like chemotherapy, chemotherapeutic agents, antimicrobial agents, and antibiotics. Then the targets of antimicrobial agents, few lines about the history of chemotherapy, then classifications of antimicrobial agents, problems of use of antimicrobial agents like its toxicity, hypersensitivity, resistance, and that is very important, resistance of the antimicrobial agents, then superinfection and masking of infection. So this part I'll be discussing in today's part 1 lectures. Now question is, why we should study or we should know the antimicrobial agents? In your lifetime, you might have come across some of the infections or you have suffered from. So you have been prescribed antibiotics. So somebody might have suffered from respiratory infection, some might have suffered from, say, bacillary dysentery, so on. So for the treatment of those infections, those are caused by these some microorganisms, you have had to prescribe, or in future you have to prescribe the antimicrobial agents or antiprotozoal drugs like that. Now question is, so which antibiotics should be used for which clinical conditions, at what dose, how frequently, how long, what are the adverse effects? So all those things, unless you know, it will be very difficult to apply, prescribe for you. So to target those problems, we'll be discussing in details about the antimicrobial agents individually. But for today, we'll be mainly discuss about the general considerations. Now, antimicrobial agents is such a drug, and it is one of the curative drug of the few curative drugs, and it is most frequently used, rather I should say it is most frequently misused drug too. Now these drugs has been designed to inhibit or kill the infective organisms. So either these drugs will either kill the microorganisms or it will inhibit the growth of microorganisms, but at the same time it should not produce much harmful effect to the host cells or the recipients, or with minimum acceptable effects in the host cells. Now coming to the few terminologies like chemotherapy. What do you understand by chemotherapy? It means it is the treatment of either the systemic infection or malignancy with specific drugs that have selective toxicity for those infective organisms or malignant cells. And that too, these drugs should not cause no or it minimum adverse effects to the host cell. So chemotherapy means the treatment of systemic infection or malignancy with some specific drugs. So that treatment is known as a chemotherapy. Now chemotherapy may be against some organisms, invading organisms, or against the malignant cells or malignancy. And the agents which are used for chemotherapy are known as a chemotherapeutic agents. Now coming to the antibiotics. So these are the substances actually produced by microorganisms which selectively suppress the growth of or kill the other microorganisms at a very low concentration and without causing much harmful effects on the host cell. So when we say antibiotics, though the term we are very acquainted with the term, but when we try to define, we should define properly. There are 4 characteristics. So they are usually produced by other microorganisms which selectively suppress the growth or the kill the other microorganisms at a very low concentration and without causing much harmful effect on the host cells. Now, they should not produce harmful effect to the host cell. Okay. Now, what is antimicrobial agents? So these are the agents which develop synthetically as well as naturally. So antibiotics, which comes naturally, but when we say antimicrobial agents, it may be either synthetic or natural, and they are developed to, or these drugs are obtained to attenuate the microorganisms. That means they may inhibit or kill the other microorganisms. So when we say antimicrobial agents, they may be synthetic or they are naturally developed. Whereas when we say antibiotics, they are mainly naturally developed, comes from the other microorganisms. That means all the when we say antimicrobial agents, means they are maybe synthetic or natural, but when we say antibiotics, they are purely natural. That means all the antibiotics comes under the heading of antimicrobial agents, but antimicrobial agents are which comes only from these natural or microorganisms, they are antibiotic. So we can say all the antibiotics are antimicrobial agents, but all antimicrobial agents are not antibiotic. Why I am emphasizing? Because sometimes you will come across this question. Some of the examiners may ask you, can you explain the statement why antibiotics are antimicrobial agents but antimicrobial agents are not antibiotic? Clear? Okay. Now, a question may come to your mind that antibiotics or antimicrobial agents have effect against the viable cells. Then if you ingest or if you prescribe to a patient, why these drugs doesn't kill or inhibit the growth of your host cell? Because there is a biochemical difference between the microorganisms and the human beings. So our target is we should explore the difference so that your drugs or antimicrobial agents will affect those different areas without causing much harmful effects to the host cell. So that is the basis of selective microbial toxicity, and these drugs act on those specific areas like the component of microbes, like bacterial cell wall. In the human cell, there is only cell membrane but no bacterial cell, whereas bacteria has a cell wall. So you can target those cell walls. So if you give a drug which will inhibit the synthesis of bacterial cell wall, it will kill the bacteria but not the host cell. Like metabolic process, like folate synthesis, microorganisms, they cannot utilize the preformed folic acid, whereas host cell, they can utilize the preformed folic acid. So if you inhibit the synthesis of folate in the organisms, now the organisms cannot grow. There are some high affinity for certain microbial molecules or biomolecules, microbial biomolecules, for example, the bacterial dihydrofolate reductase enzyme. So you can inhibit those bacterial dihydrofolate reductase enzyme by a drug called trimethoprim. It is a synthetic, so it is a antimicrobial agent, but we cannot tell trimethoprim is a antibiotic because it is a synthetic in origin. So I was telling the target that bacterial cell wall. Here I am showing this picture. I am showing you the difference. Say this is your gram-positive organism cell wall. It is a thick cell wall outside the cell membrane. Say this is a peptidoglycan cell wall, and whereas in case of gram-negative organisms, outside the cell wall there is another cell membrane. That means the peptidoglycan layer has been sandwiched between the two lipid bilayer in case of your gram-negative organisms. So the antimicrobial agents which target the bacterial cell wall, they are easily accessible to the gram-positive organism cell wall, but not the cell wall of the gram-negative. So if you give a drug to target the cell wall of the gram-negative organism, it has to pass through the lipid bilayer. So it has to be lipid soluble. And sometimes some of the drugs, they cannot enter or pass through this lipid bilayer. So there are some porine channels. Through these porine channels, they enter to have an effect on the bacterial cell wall. So a drug which is effective against gram-positive organisms, they may not be effective against the gram-negative organisms. And so you have to choose such a drug which should enter through this porine channel to enter the bacterial cell wall which is gram-negative. Now, if you think, if there is any change in the porine channels, in that case, your given drug cannot enter through this porine channel. In other words, you can say your bacteria has developed resistance against those antibacterial agents. Okay. Now, coming to the little bit of history of chemotherapy, we can divide this history in 3 phases. I won't go in detail. At least you should know the 3 phases. What are those 3 phases? One is the period of empirical use. Say for leprosy, Chalmogra oil were used earlier. Next is the second phase, that is the Ehrlich phase of dyes. And the term chemotherapy has been coined by this scientist Ehrlich. Sometimes in MCQ, you may come across the term chemotherapy has been coined by which of the following scientists. So you should know the term chemotherapy has been coined by the Ehrlich. Next comes the modern era of chemotherapy, and it is ushered by the Domark, so to say, in 1935. The penicillin, as you know, the penicillin has been discovered by the scientist from Alexander the Fleming in 1929. And then comes your streptomycin, which comes under the aminoglycoside groups of antibiotics and used for treatment of tuberculosis, which has been discovered by the Waxman in 1944. One thing I like to mention here, that in the plant of or streptomycin, when it is produced synthetically as a byproduct, we get one vitamin B12. Sometimes in the MCQ questions you may come across it has been asked which which vitamin we can get as a byproduct from the plant of streptomycin. Okay. Now coming to the classification of antimicrobial agents. So when you say in the pharmacology classification, it sometimes students becomes very apprehensive of how much big will be the classification. But truly speaking, when you are a little bit idea about the classification, it becomes very easy to remember. Now, antimicrobial agents can be classified in many ways based on its chemical structure, mechanism of action. It can be classified based on the types of organisms against which it primarily acts, say whether it is an antifungal drugs, antibacterial or antiviral, so on. Then its spectrum of activity, like it is a broad spectrum or narrow spectrum. Sometimes examiner may ask you, name some broad spectrum antimicrobial agents, or the type of infections, say it is whether it is a bacteriostatic drug or it is a bactericidal drugs. And of course, it can be classified based on the sources of antimicrobial agents. Now, coming to the classification according to the chemical structure, it is a long list. So some may be sulfonamides, then fluoroquinolones, beta-lactams, aminoglycosides, macrolides. So you have to practice it and know, because sometimes examiner may ask you name some sulfonamides, say sulfamethoxazole, okay, sulfadiazine, like this. Quinolones, say your sparfloxacillin, ciprofloxacillin, ofloxacillin. Beta-lactams, it is a very big group, say penicillins, ampicillins, cephalosporins. They comes under beta-lactam antibiotics. Like your aminoglycosides, like your streptomycin, gentamicin, amikacin. Like your macrolides, like erythromycin, azithromycin, tetracycline, like doxycycline, so on, lincosamide. So why we should know, sometimes examiner may ask you, give me an example of glycopeptide. Okay, it's a vancomycin. Give me an example of some azole derivatives. So in that way, you should practice yourself, because as soon as you are asked, you should be able to tell at least few examples of each of these classes, right? Next classification, it may classify according to the organisms against which it primarily active. You must know, because a infection may be from fungus, infection may be by virus or protozoals or bacteria. So unless you know if it is a bacterial meningitis, what antimicrobial agents you should prescribe. If it is a fungal meningitis, say after AIDS, the Cryptococcus meningitis, so which antifungal drug you should give, so you have to know. So in that way, you should practice also then, to give an example of some antibacterial drugs, some antifungal drugs, some antiviral drugs, antiprotozoal. So these examples I am not giving here. So it is there in the book. You go through and prepare your own notes. Now, according to the spectrum of activity, some of the antimicrobial agents are broad spectrum, some are narrow spectrum antimicrobial agents. So to give few examples like narrow spectrum, like penicillin G, streptomycin, erythromycin, then broad spectrum antibiotics like chloramphenicol and tetracycline. Examiners are very fond of asking, give me the example of broad spectrum antimicrobial agents. So everybody should be able to tell there are two basically. One is your chloramphenicol, another is your tetracycline. Now coming to the classification according to the spectrum of activity. Some of the antimicrobial agents are bacteriostatic, some are bactericidal. Bacteriostatic, as the name suggests, they arrest the growth and the replication of bacteria at serum level achievable in the patient. That is very important. If you give high concentration, sometimes in vitro, it may kill the organisms. But your aim is the drug you are giving, it should be, that serum concentration should be achievable in vivo, and that concentration, it should either kill or inhibit the organisms. Now, when we say bacteriostatic, we mean they arrest the growth and the replication of bacteria at a serum level, achievable in the patient, thus limiting the spread of infection. For example, tetracycline, sulfonamides. Here I like to mention one thing. There are different mechanism actions of the antimicrobial agents. The antimicrobial agents which acts by inhibiting bacterial protein synthesis, they are basically bacteriostatic except aminoglycoside groups of antibiotics, right? Now coming to the bactericidal, they kill or irreversibly damage the multiplying bacteria so that the total number of viable organisms decrease at a drug serum level achievable. I repeat here, at a drug serum level achievable in the patient, right? So they will inhibit or kill the microorganism at a concentration which is achievable in the body. For example, cotrimoxazole, penicillin. Now just see, when I have given the example of sulfonamides, they are bacteriostatic. But sulfonamides, when you combine with another agents like trimethoprim, this combination is known as a cotrimoxazole, and this cotrimoxazole becomes bactericidal, where individually both the sulfonamides and the trimethoprim are bacteriostatic. Another important thing I like to mention here, the bacteriostatic drugs, they arrest the growth and the replication of bacteria, whereas bactericidal drug, they kill the organisms, but they kill the organisms when the organisms are multiplying or growing, right? Now, if you give a bacteriostatic drugs, means they will arrest the growth, inhibit the replication, whereas bactericidal drugs, they will act or kill the organism when the organisms are multiplying, right? So if you combine these two groups of drugs like your tetracycline and penicillin, what will happen? Your bacteriostatic drugs will arrest the growth. In that situation, whether your bactericidal drugs will act? Yes, it cannot act, isn't it? Because the bactericidal drugs acts only when it is replicating, right? So what is your idea? Whether we can combine bacteriostatic drugs and bactericidal drugs together? Yes, no, we cannot combine, because when you combine these two drugs, your bactericidal drugs cannot act. So sometimes you may come across some of the questions like why bacteriostatic drugs and bactericidal drugs should not be combined together, right? Of course, there are some exceptions to all. Say in treatment of tuberculosis, we give multiple drugs, some are bacteriostatic, some are bactericidal. So besides those exceptions, usually we'll try to know that bacteriostatic drugs and bactericidal drugs should not be combined together. Now, you can classify the antimicrobial agents according to the sources of antibiotic. Like antibiotic which develops from fungi, is the first antibiotic, that is your penicillin, cephalosporin, griseofulvin. Bacteria like you develop from bacteria like polymyxin B, colistin, bacitracin. Then actinomyces like your aminoglycoside, macrolides, tetracycline, and chlorphenicol. So sometimes examiner may ask you, give me some example of antimicrobial agents which develops from bacteria, right? Now, classification can be done by the mechanism action of antibiotics. It is very important. If you basically classify the antimicrobial agents based on the mechanism, when any individual antimicrobial agents has been asked as a short note, if you can remember the basic mechanism of action, then you can easily write few lines which group of drug, then that will help in the classification. From the classification your classification based on the structure, whether it is bacteriostatic or bactericidal, whether it is a broad spectrum and narrow spectrum, and the mechanism. So even though individual drug you have not prepared, but once you have prepared the classification, at least few lines you can nicely write, right? So how can you classify? The antimicrobial agents affect the viability of the microorganisms by basically by 5 mechanisms. We'll be enumerating one by one. The antimicrobial agents are effective because, why they are effective? Because of their selective toxicity, and they have the ability to injure or kill the invading microorganisms without harming the cells of the host. So they will target the different target, which will not target, difference between the host cell and the microorganisms. That will be explored by your antimicrobial agents, and they will affect, say, inhibition of the bacterial cell wall. For example, say penicillins, but cell wall is not there in the host cell. Now, alteration of the cell membrane integrity of the microorganisms. Then inhibition of ribosomal protein synthesis. Then suppression of DNA synthesis and inhibition of folic acid synthesis. Okay, so these are the basic mechanism how your antimicrobial agents acts. So it may either inhibit the cell wall or alter the cell membrane integrity of the organisms, or it may inhibit the bacterial protein synthesis or suppression of the DNA synthesis. Suppression and then inhibition of the folic acid synthesis, because organisms cannot utilize the preformed folic acid, right? Now, few example, say mechanism action of the antibiotic which inhibits bacterial cell wall synthesis. Okay, say like your vancomycin, bacitracin, penicillin, cephalosporin. Some of the examiner may ask you, okay, give me example of some antimicrobial agents which acts by inhibiting bacterial protein synthesis. Okay, or bacterial cell wall synthesis, say vancomycin, bacitracin. Then drugs which acts by inhibiting bacterial protein synthesis, like your streptomycin, tetracycline, erythromycin. So you should remember in that way. Now these antimicrobial agents which acts by bacterial protein synthesis, I have told already, they are usually bacteriostatic except your aminoglycoside groups of drugs. Now your antimicrobial agents can act by inhibiting the DNA gyrase enzymes like quinolones. You might have come across like cephalosporin, ofloxacillin, so on. Then DNA directed RNA polymerase, that is the another mechanism, like your antitubercular drug like rifampicin. Then inhibiting the folic acid metabolism like your trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole. So they actually block sequentially, say para-aminobenzoic acid, then ultimately formation of dihydrofolic acid, then tetrahydrofolic acid. So they sequentially, these steps are blocked by the sulfonamides and trimethoprim subsequently. But if you come individually, you prescribe, they are bacteriostatic, but if you combine, they becomes bactericidal. So this is the classification based on the mechanism of action. Some of the examiner may ask you, name some antimicrobial agents which acts by inhibiting bacterial cell wall synthesis. Okay. So in your book, this classification also has been given, like mechanism action of antimicrobial drugs, like inhibit the bacterial cell wall synthesis, then cell membrane leakage like polymyxin, polystyrene, inhibit the protein synthesis, cause the misreading of the RNA like aminoglycosides. Okay. So you should be able to tell few examples from this chart. Okay, these were the example of, rather the classifications of antimicrobial agents. Coming to the problem of use of antimicrobial agents. As you know, each and every drug has some adverse effects. So as your antimicrobial agents. So when you will prescribe antimicrobial agents, you may have to come across some of the adverse effects. Unless you know those adverse effects, it will be difficult for you to treat correctly. So you have to sensitize the patient. So after you say after taking this drug, so these adverse effects you may come across, or in the back of your mind you should be ready with, oh, I may come across this adverse effects. So you should be careful. So what are those adverse effects, or what are the problems you may come across? Like your toxicity, hypersensitivity reaction. You might have come across already, say after giving penicillin there is a type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. It is a life-threatening conditions, anaphylactic shock. Now these hypersensitivity reactions are unpredictable and unrelated to dose. That is very important. Then most important is the drug resistance. That is the very important from this era, because due to indiscriminate use of antimicrobial agents, the smart microorganisms, they are developing resistance against those your drugs, right? And a company which is developing a new antimicrobial agents after spending a lots of money and spending a lot of time, say 10 to 20 years, but due to indiscriminate use of those drugs, they become resistant within few years. So now the companies are also not at all interested to develop a new antimicrobial agents, right? So what will happen? Can you imagine? All the drugs has become resistant, and the microorganisms becomes resistant, and you are getting the infections, but you have no weapon to fight against them, right? So we should be very judicious, and we should know how resistance develop, so that you can accordingly act. Now other problems of use of antimicrobial agents are your superinfections, then nutritional deficiency, and masking of infections. We'll be discussing one by one all those problems. Now coming to the toxicity, it may be local irritation at the site of administration, or maybe systemic toxicity. It is a dose related and predictable organ toxicity. If you increase the dose, so the toxicity will be more. Whereas hypersensitivity reaction, it is unpredictable. Okay. Now to give few example, say some of the antimicrobial agents are your nephrotoxic, like your aminoglycoside, amphotericin B. Sometimes your examiner will ask, name some nephrotoxic drug, or name some nephrotoxic antimicrobial agents, name some ototoxins. You might be thinking, why I should remember those things? You think when you are going to prescribe those drugs in your practical life, say a patient has come with urinary tract infection, and you got an antimicrobiome that your aminoglycoside is effective, but your patient is suffering from kidney problem. So you have to modify the dose or adjust the dose, right? So you should know, or a patient whose liver is compromised. So you should not, as far as practicable, you should not prescribe a drug which is hepatotoxic, right? So hepatotoxic antimicrobial agents are like your rifampicin, isoniazid, pyrazinamide. They are all antitubercular drugs. Some of the drugs, they are bone marrow depression, like chloramphenicol. Say when you prescribe chloramphenicol, in back of your mind, you must remember there is chance of bone marrow depression. So you should follow up in that line also, whether patient has developed anemia or any infections or not. So that is the importance of knowing. So if you know, accordingly, you may plan for the future action, or you can take some preventive measures, right? Now, most important one, as I told, there is the drug resistance. What does it mean? It refers to the unresponsiveness of microorganism to antimicrobial agents. You are giving a drug. Earlier, you could kill the microorganism, but today you cannot kill. Say, let us take one example. Say malaria. Say malarial parasite. Against the malarial parasite like falciparum, chloroquine was effective, but at present in the northeastern state, the falciparum or parasite has developed resistance against the chloroquine, right? Now, another terminology you might have come across, that is the tolerance. It is in relation to human. What does it mean? It is almost same, but when we say resistance, we mean the microorganism has developed resistance against your antimicrobial agents, whereas tolerance is relation to your human. Say you are giving beta 2 agonist for the management of your bronchial asthma. The dose which you earlier required, the dose which were required for the bronchodilation, but now you cannot, with the same dose, you cannot do the bronchodilation. You need to give higher dose. That is need of the increased dose. Then we can say that this patient has developed tolerance against beta 2 agonist like salbutamol, right? Now, resistance in bacterial population can spread from person to person by bacteria. Okay. Now, from this resistance can spread from bacteria to bacteria by plasmid, and plasmid to plasmid by transposon or integrans. Now, antimicrobial resistance can be intrinsic or natural, like your Mycobacterium tuberculosis to the tetracycline. That is, from the very beginning, the Mycobacterium tuberculosis is resistant to your tetracycline. But there are some type of resistance which is acquired. Means in the beginning, these organisms growth could be killed, growth could be inhibited or killed by antibiotics or antimicrobial agents, but gradually due to indiscriminate use or very frequent use, now the organisms has become very smart and they could resist the attack of your antimicrobial agent. So that is acquired. Now, how acquired resistance the organisms get? The mechanism of antimicrobial agent resistance. One is, we'll discuss under two heading. One is the genetic method of antimicrobial agent resistance, and due to this genetic changes, what actually happens to the organism, that is the biochemical mechanism of resistance of antimicrobial agents. Now, genetic methods of resistance may be chromosomal method, that is the mutation, that is a stable, heritable genetic change and occurs spontaneously and randomly among the microorganisms, and another is your extra chromosomal methods, like your plasmid mediated genes transfer. What is plasmid? Plasmids are the carrier of DNA molecules, carry the resistance gene or R genes. So DNA molecules, the plasmids are the carrier which carry the resistance gene or the R gene. So R plasmid, when we say mean, R plasmid carry the R gene or the resistance gene. The transfer of resistance gene from one bacterium to the another, or transfer of resistance gene between the plasmid within the bacteria. So these two things may be possible: transfer of resistance gene from one bacteria to another, or transfer of resistance gene from one plasmid to another within the bacteria. Now, transfer of resistance gene from one bacterium to another, how it is possible? The transfer of resistance gene can occur between the bacteria of the same species or different species. Now, there are three mechanisms by which this gene can be transferred. The three mechanisms, main mechanisms are: one is your conjugation, next is your transduction, and transformation. Conjugation means through a connective tube or sex pili, the plasmid containing their resistance gene pass from one bacteria to the another bacteria through the development of the connective tube or sex pili, and is very common in the colon, because in the colon the microorganisms are thickly populated. This is the main mechanism. And another mechanism, your transduction, means by the help of your bacteriophage, the resistance gene which carried by the plasma are transferred from one bacteria to another. And another is your transformation, means the resistance carrying DNA is released by one bacteria. The resistance carrying in the DNA or R gene is released by one bacterium in the environment, and it is picked by the another organisms or another bacteria. So that method is called transformations. So what are the three methods? One is conjugation, one is transduction, another is transformation. This is the main mechanism of transfer of resistance gene from one bacteria to another bacteria. Say, for example, you can see here, this is the mutation and this is the conjugation. So by the sex pili, so resistance gene is transferred from one bacteria to the another bacteria. Then conjugation, another is what? Another is your transduction, right? So transduction by the help of your bacteriophage, and another is transformation. From the environment, one bacteria has released some resistance gene and it is picked up by the another bacteria and it has developed resistance, right? Now, of course, there is from the plasmid, by the transposon and integron, one plasmid it contains the resistance gene. Now the another plasmid also got the resistance gene. Now after this gene transfer, what actually happened to the bacteria? What actually happens? Why bacteria has developed resistance? Okay, fine, I agreed that the bacteria got the resistance gene. What actually happens? What modification of the bacteria develops? So what happens, that what are the biochemical mechanisms of resistance? The prevention of drug accumulation in the bacteria, means to have an effect against the microorganisms, your antimicrobial agents or antibiotic has to enter. But due to some altered purine channels, the permeability is reduced, so your drug cannot enter inside the bacteria, it cannot act. Or another way it may happen that your drug or antimicrobial agents could enter the organisms, but it has been effluxed out by the efflux pump or expression of P glycoprotein. This is the one mechanism. Another mechanism is maybe by producing enzyme that inactivates the antimicrobial agents. So after getting the resistance gene, he could produce one enzyme or the protein, which is the enzyme and which could destroy your antimicrobial agents. So development of or expression of beta-lactamase enzyme will destroy the penicillin. As for example, chloramphenicol may be destroyed by expression of acetyltransferase enzyme. Then another method is your drug resistance due to altered drug target. Means, say, for example, the drug which binds with the bacterial protein and inhibits the protein synthesis, that your drug or antibiotics has to bind with the penicillin binding protein of the organisms, and thereby it inhibits the growth. Or DNA guidase enzyme, say your fluoroquinolone groups of drugs like your ofloxacillin, ceprofloxacillin, they bind with the DNA guidase enzyme of the organisms and they inhibit it. But if it is altered, what will happen? Your organisms cannot bind. Now your drug cannot act. Another method, biochemical mechanism, is use of alternative pathway for metabolism and growth requirement. Say there is a pathway for synthesis of folic acid. So you are inhibiting the enzymes like dihydrofolate synthase and reductase enzyme. But microorganisms are so smart, he has developed another bypass pathway for development of dihydrofolic acid and tetrahydrofolic acid, and thereby he has developed the resistance against those antimicrobial agents. So in short, the biochemical mechanism maybe we can discuss under 4 headings. One is your prevention of drug accumulation in the bacteria. Number 2, by producing enzyme that inactivates the antimicrobial agents, example like your penicillin. Then drug resistance due to altered drug target, like you altered penicillin binding protein for penicillin, or altered DNA guidase enzyme like your fluoroquinolones groups of drugs. Then use of alternative pathway for metabolism of the growth requirement. Say like your organism has developed resistance against sulfur drugs or trimethoprim, or in combination cotrimoxazole. So these are the mechanism, both the genetic and the biochemical mechanism of development of resistance by the organisms against the antimicrobial agents. Say, if we go through this picture, say drug can unable to enter due to change in the porine channels, your antimicrobial agent unable to enter, or it has entered but it has been effluxed out by the efflux pump or P glycoprotein. So if you can inhibit this P glycoprotein efflux pump, your drug may be again effective. Now drug which is entered, it has been destroyed by beta lactamase enzyme. Now if you can add beta lactamase enzyme inhibitors, now your drug again may be effective, right? Then there is a change in the target organs, the target in the microorganisms. Say earlier drug could bind with this target, but now the target has been changed. So a penicillin binding protein has been changed. Your penicillin cannot bind and cannot act. Now here you can see change in the intermediate pathway, metabolic pathway. Para-aminobenzoic acid synthesize dihydrofolic acid and tetrahydrofolic acid by the enzyme dihydrofolate reductase and tetrahydrofolic synthase enzyme. But it has been usually drug used to inhibit these enzymes. Now your microorganism has developed one bypass pathway, so that is generating tetrahydrofolic acid. So even though you are giving this drug, you cannot inhibit this pathway. Now what happens? Your microorganisms is growing because your drug cannot inhibit the synthesis of this tetrahydrofolic acid. So that means, in other words, your microorganism has developed resistance against these drugs. Okay. Now question is, yes sir, it has drug, the microorganisms can develop resistance, your drug will not be effective. Now how to prevent it? Many things we can do. No indiscriminate or inadequate or unduly prolonged use of antimicrobial agents. You should not indiscriminately use antimicrobial agents or in lower dose or unduly prolonged. Say 5 days, 10 days is required, you are using for 15 days. So unduly prolonged use. You should prefer rapidly acting and selective or narrow spectrum antimicrobial agents. Then broad spectrum drugs should be used only when a specific one cannot be determined. That only you should use broad spectrum antibiotic. Otherwise, it's better to use selective narrow spectrum specific drug. Use combination of antimicrobial agents whenever prolonged therapy is undertaken, like tuberculosis, leprosy, subacute bacterial endocarditis, HIV infections. So sometimes examiner may ask you, name some infection where antimicrobial agents are used in combination for prolonged period. So you should answer, your answer will be tuberculosis, leprosy, subacute bacterial endocarditis. Okay. The infection by organisms notorious for developing resistance must be treated intensively. That is again very important. So if you know these organisms are notorious for developing resistance, you should always prescribe drug, bactericidal drugs, and you should treat it intensively, right? Now next, adverse effects or problem of using antimicrobial agents after resistance is your superinfection. What is superinfection? The appearance of new infection due to antimicrobial agent therapy. Appearance of new infection due to use of antimicrobial agents, right? The use of antimicrobial agents causes some alteration in the normal microbacterial flora of the body. Normal flora elaborate bacteriocin. So use of antimicrobial agents causes some alteration in the normal bacterial flora in the body. We know there is a normal bacterial flora in our body, like in the intestines. Okay. So coming to the superinfection. Okay. So I'm sorry for the interruption. As I was telling, the normal flora elaborate bacteriocins which inhibit the pathogenic organism. So normal flora is there in our body, like in the intestine, oral cavity. Okay. So this normal flora elaborate the bacteriocins which inhibit the pathogenic organisms. Now pathogens has to compete with the normal flora for nutrients. It's a thing that already bacterial flora is there. Now one pathogenic organisms has entered. Now these pathogenic organisms has to compete for nutrition with this bacterial flora. right? Now, if bacterial flora is suppressed, what will happen? There is no competition. So lack of competition may allow even a normally non-pathogenic component of the flora to be predominant. Now, common superinfections are Candida albicans, Pseudomonas, resistant Staphylococcus, etc. Now, to minimize the superinfection, what we can do? Use of specific or narrow spectrum antimicrobial agents, which is whenever possible. Not to use antimicrobial agents to treat trivial, self-limiting or untreatable infections, not to prolong antimicrobial therapy unnecessarily. So, to minimize the superinfection, we should not use antimicrobial unnecessarily for prolonged period. And the says simple viral infection, we should not prescribe antimicrobials. And whenever possible, always narrow spectrum should be prescribed. Otherwise, if you prescribe broad spectrum antibiotic, it will kill normal bacterial flora. Now, conditions predispose the superinfections. What are the conditions? Like you sometimes it may be asked, or you should be careful if the patient is suffering from this condition, so there is chance of superinfection. Say corticosteroid therapy, a patient who is taking prolonged corticosteroid therapy like your nephrotic syndrome or arthritis, leukemia and other malignancies, especially when treated with anti-cancer drugs, AIDS, then agranulocytosis, diabetes, disseminated erythematosus, and old age. So these are the conditions which can predispose the superinfection. Now, nutritional deficiency is another adverse effects, like some B complex and vitamin K synthesized by intestinal flora. So, prolonged antimicrobial agent therapy may alter the bacterial flora and results in vitamin deficiency, because vitamin B complex, some of the vitamin B complex and vitamin K are synthesized by the intestinal flora. So, if you kill those intestinal flora by giving broad spectrum antimicrobial agents, so there will be vitamin deficiency. So, for example, neomycin, or if you prescribe, it may cause abnormalities in the intestinal flora, and that may cause steatosis. Another adverse effects or problems of using antimicrobial agents is masking of infection. Infection is there, but due to use of antimicrobial agents, which is not adequate to control this infection, but they mask, and that thing misleading. A short course of antimicrobial agents may be sufficient to treat one infection, but briefly suppress the another one contacted concurrently. For example, single dose of penicillin will mask the syphilis, but sufficient for the gonorrhea. So a patient is suffering from chest infection, you have given some antibiotics like fluoroquinolones, so that may mask the tuberculosis. So masking of infection is another problem of using antimicrobials. So there are different adverse effects, problems of using antimicrobial agents. Just to recap, we have seen that there may be toxicity, there may be hypersensitivity reaction, there may be development of drug resistance, or there may be vitamin deficiency, there may be superinfections, and there may be masking of infections. So for today's class, the part 1, general considerations, we have discussed the few terminologies like what is chemotherapy, what is chemotherapeutic agents, then what is antimicrobial agents and antibiotics. All antibiotics are antimicrobial agents, but all antimicrobial agents are not antibiotics. Then we have talked something about the target. What is the different target which is not present in the host cell, but it is present in the microorganisms. Then little bit of history. Then we have discussed the classifications of antibacterial agent, and we have classified based on different things, chemical classification, based on the mechanism, based on the spectrum of activity, so on. Then we have discussed the problem of use of antibacterial agents like toxicity, hypersensitivity reaction. Now, the very important hypersensitivity reaction is your type 1 hypersensitivity reaction by using penicillins, which may cause what? Type 1 anaphylactic shock, right? So it is an acute condition, and treatment is, as you know, we have to give adrenaline. And development of resistance, that is a very important one. and we should always target to prevent the resistance as far as practicable, and other adverse effects or problems such as superinfection, masking, or infection. So that's all for today. The rest part of the general considerations we'll be discussing in the next class. Thank you.